What's remarkable about the Serengeti today, as it was 50 years ago, is that it maintains an intact ecosystem, a phenomenal migration of wildlife, just as it was 2-3 million years ago. What's really changed though today is the number of people that are living around the national park.
In 50 years ago, when Bernard Jimmick was here, you couldn't really see these kind of activities happening at these places.
In the early 1950s, FZS's founder, Professor Bernhard Jimmick, made his inaugural trip to the Serengeti region. Although FZS has operated here ever since that time, the area itself has changed dramatically. Human population has more than quadrupled in size and is now exerting a greater pressure on Serengeti's natural resources. As a result, FZS has adopted a holistic approach to conservation, which means putting the focus both on protecting wild areas, but just as importantly, working with the communities that surround them.
Communities within the Serengeti ecosystem can benefit the park through several ways. One, many of the natural resources are actually on village land, on community land. And so engaging with communities and helping them to manage those resources effectively also provides additional support to the resources used by the entire ecosystem.
Dennis Wrench is the project manager of FZS's Serengeti Ecosystem Management Project, and today he and his team are visiting one of their project sites in the Loliondo game-controlled area. This spans over 4,000 square kilometres of community land on the periphery of Serengeti National Park. The forest here is of critical ecological importance to the Serengeti, as it is the water catchment for both the Grumeti River and Lake Natron. But now even this precious resource is under grave threat.
So he's explaining this area that we're seeing now would have been densely forested just not even 1 year ago. But this was opened up to make room for a farm. And you can still see some of the remnants of the trees, some of these dried and fallen trees which were previously part of the forest.
Many of the Maasai here would traditionally have been nomadic pastoralists, moving with their cattle during the changing seasons. But increased population pressure is changing their habits, and recently there has been a shift towards agricultural expansion, putting huge pressure on natural resources. Forests are now being opened up, threatening the water sources and presenting a huge risk for the rivers and wildlife downstream, but also for the people who depend on these water sources.
For FZS, our goal is to see that this forest is well protected for the benefit of the communities to continue to have their forest products and also to have their nice clean water like this one we see here. But more importantly, to protect these forest and water sources so that the water can continue to flow towards the Serengeti National Park.
Dennis and his team play a crucial role. For long-term sustainability and success, they must devise ways for communities to see the tangible benefits from conservation. Beekeeping is one such initiative that is bringing both financial benefits to the people at the same time as protecting the forest.
Honey
is providing an income for villagers and an incentive to look after forests.
Law enforcement goes hand in hand with forest protection. In this forest, beacons have been placed to demarcate areas set aside by the communities for protection. Village forest scouts have been trained to patrol these areas and enforce regulations. Today they are rehearsing what to do in the event of finding an illegal log cutter. FZS has made major progress with these communities, and consequently the forests are far more protected than they were before. But the battle is far from won.
What we have here is a great example of some of the encroachment that we were discussing. Here you have some new farms which have been opened up recently inside the forest. These farms are used for growing maize, growing corn, but unfortunately some of these farms are even owned by leaders of the village, and this is one of the big challenges that we face, and especially makes the job of these forest scouts who have been working so hard and are so dedicated to patrolling this forest and enforcing it, enforcing the boundaries, that sometimes they have political pressure working against them.
But despite the challenges, headway is being made. Community conservation banks, or COCOBAs, are designed to encourage communities to adopt livelihoods and income streams that do not deplete the natural resources.
We're here in Bisarara village with members of Community Conservation Bank, or COCOBA, and they meet every week to contribute money to a common bank. This is the bank box here. After the money accumulates, they take a loan based on the amount of money that they've contributed, and this loan helps them to start businesses.
Barrow used to be a bushmeat hunter. Here he shows pictures of his former life.
So this is a picture that he took of himself, showing how he hides in the bush, hiding from Tanapa Rangers.
By joining a COCOBA group, Barrow saved enough money to start up his own carpentry business. This is not only more sustainable, but is also more profitable than bushmeat hunting. For Barrow, it has been a welcome change.
Here we see that through COCOBA and through stopping hunting, he's actually been able to build a house, support his family, pay school fees and all of that. So certainly the needs of the communities have to be met, and I think there's a real potential for them to be met through programs like COCOBA rather than through income from bushmeat hunting.
For Dennis, working with communities and encouraging them to protect wildlife is no easy task. Yet despite the challenges, he has seen a positive impact from his work, and he believes that the future remains bright.
It's an incredibly resilient ecosystem, and by at least addressing some of these threats and managing things in a sustainable way, I do believe that there's a good chance that many of the resources that we see now, many of the wildlife, will be here for future generations.